Henry Henderson didn't believe in fate, but fate didn't ask for his permission that night. He stepped up to the podium in Cleveland's Marriott Ballroom, ready to deliver a familiar speech when his gaze drifted toward the side door and his entire world stopped breathing. Have you ever thought the past was gone? Until it stood right in front of you, not as a memory, not as a regret, but as a living moment waiting to knock the air out of your chest? Henry's voice faltered mid-sentence. His practiced confidence slipped. His grip tightened around the note card he didn't need. His pulse kicked against his ribs like it wanted to escape. Something inside him was shifting, fast, sharp, undeniable. Stay with me, because one moment, one impossible sight, rewrote a man's entire life. Welcome back to Mr. Dave's Stories, where every story reminds us that growth is possible, healing is real, and lessons are everywhere. If this is your first time, we're honored to have you. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you never miss a story that might uplift, inspire, or change the way you see life. The ballroom shimmered with gold linens, warm lighting, and donors pretending their bank accounts felt generous tonight. Cameras flashed. Laughter floated. A string quartet played a song no one recognized but everyone pretended to enjoy. Henry had attended this literacy gala every year. It was predictable, controlled, comfortable. Tonight, none of it felt familiar. Because across the room, near the stage steps where the children lined up for the poetry segment, he saw something that didn't fit inside logic. A woman in a rose-colored dress, 2 little girls beside her, 3 silhouettes that rattled something buried inside him. Henry blinked hard. That couldn't be. It was. Eliza, the only woman he spent years avoiding in memory because remembering her meant remembering what he had ruined. She was leaning down, adjusting the tiny bow on one girl's dress. The little one kept touching her beads, grinning like the world was hers. The other, quiet, holding a tiny flashcard the way a small child holds courage. Henry's heart thudded painfully. His throat tightened. His chest burned. He wasn't prepared for this. He wasn't prepared for her. He wasn't prepared for them. The MC continued talking, unaware that Henry was a man being cracked open from the inside out. Eliza hadn't seen him yet. Thank God. But Henry saw everything. Her curls framing her face. The soft, grounded confidence she carried. The gentle way she whispered to the shy twin. The familiar spark in her eyes, older now, stronger, but still Eliza. He gripped the podium. A tremor rolled through him. He didn't believe in signs. But this felt like a sign delivered to disrupt every comfortable lie he had told himself. Thank you all for being here. Henry heard his own voice echo through the microphone, but his mind wasn't following the words. His eyes kept drifting, kept returning to the image that shook him. The children moved into the center of the ballroom, guided by volunteers. They held hands. Their dresses swayed as they walked. A set of matching curls bounced in rhythm. And then one of them turned, and Henry felt something collapse quietly inside his chest. The girl's brow, serious, focused, exactly like his. The other twin, bold and bright, had his crooked half-smile, the one Eliza used to tease him about. His hand slipped from the podium. For the first time in his adult life, Henry Henderson, Cleveland's quiet powerhouse, looked completely undone. The MC spoke again, voice cheerful, next on stage. Amelia and Scarlett. Henry's breath caught. Scarlett, Amelia. Twins. Eliza stepped aside to let them walk toward the center of the stage. A small laugh broke from bold little Amelia as she waved at the crowd. Scarlett clutched her card and whispered something to her sister. Henry's hearing faded. His vision tunneled. He felt the ground shift beneath him. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't imagination. This was truth, quietly standing in the middle of a hotel ballroom wearing purple dresses. The first line of their poem began. Scarlett's voice was soft, trembling, but brave. Amelia added loud commentary that made the audience chuckle. Henry wasn't laughing. He was breaking. A man next to him chuckled and whispered, "Cute kids, they almost look like..." Henry stepped away abruptly, pulse drumming in his ears. He couldn't listen. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't stand still. His eyes found Eliza again, hands clasped, face tense, watching the twins with the focus only a mother has. A mother. A single mother. A mother who once trusted him with her heart. A mother whose children. He swallowed hard. He didn't want assumptions. He wanted truth. He wanted clarity. But the truth didn't wait for permission. It hit him the moment Scarlett lifted her face fully toward the lights. Her eyes. His voice escaped before he could stop it. "They have my eyes." Climax #1 struck silently but forcefully inside the crowded room. Henry wasn't whispering to anyone. He wasn't thinking aloud. He was facing a truth he never imagined he'd find. Someone nearby turned, hearing him, confusion forming. Whispers started. Quick glances. Curious stares. Eliza heard the shift in the room's energy. She followed the murmurs. Then her gaze slowly rose and collided with Henry's. Her breath left her body. Her lips parted in shock. Her entire posture stiffened. 3 years, 3 long years, ended with one look across a crowded ballroom. Henry's chest tightened painfully. The twins finished their poem, messy, adorable, out of order, but the applause barely registered to either adult. For a moment, everything went silent between them. Her eyes filled with questions, his filled with answers he wasn't ready to confront. Before we go deeper, take a second to like this video and drop a comment. It helps YouTube push this story so more people can experience it with you. The room didn't know it yet, but this moment was the start of everything. A father discovering 2 small reflections of himself. A mother forced to face the past she tried to heal from. 2 daughters unaware that truth was rearranging their world. And Henry standing at the edge of a life he never knew he missed. The applause faded into background noise as the twins walked off the stage. Cameras flashed, donors smiled, and volunteers guided children back to their parents. But for Henry, the world had narrowed to a single truth he couldn't escape. He took 1 step toward the front rows. Then another. The air felt heavy, pressing against his ribs. Eliza was already standing, her hands trembling as she reached for the twins. Her eyes flicked between Amelia and Scarlett, checking them for reassurance she couldn't feel inside herself. He reached the end of the stage steps at the same time she did. 3 years of distance collapsed into a single breath. "Eliza," he said, voice barely above a whisper. Her reaction wasn't dramatic. No gasp, no stumble, just a quiet, tightening exhale, like a woman bracing for a conversation she prayed would never arrive in public. She blinked once, steadying herself, then looked at him directly. "Not here," she murmured. Her tone was soft but firm, a mother protecting her children before anything else. Henry nodded instantly. He didn't trust his voice anyway. His heart was pounding too loudly in his ears. Eliza knelt quickly, brushing curls away from the twins' foreheads. "You 2 did amazing," she whispered. "Go with Miss Tay for a moment, okay? I'll be right back." Amelia saluted dramatically. Scarlett nodded, hesitant but obedient. The moment they turned away, Eliza straightened, her posture strong but visibly shaken. Henry didn't know what to do with his hands. Keep them at his sides? Reach out? Clench them? Nothing felt right. "Can we talk?" he asked softly. Eliza inhaled slowly. "Follow me." She didn't wait for him. She walked toward the small hallway near the ballroom exit, a quiet area with muted lighting and framed photos of past events lining the walls. With every step, Henry felt memories he tried to bury clawing their way back into his chest. He had seen her earlier tonight, startled, stunned. But now, up close, the impact was different, sharper, deeper. When they reached the hallway, Eliza stopped near a small window where soft winter light spilled in. She crossed her arms gently, not as a barrier but as support for herself. Henry stood a few feet away, enough distance to show respect, not enough to hide the storm inside him. For a long moment, they simply breathed in the same tense silence. "Why didn't you tell me?" Henry finally asked, voice cracking despite his effort to stay composed. Eliza closed her eyes, not out of guilt, but grief. "I tried," she whispered. Henry's brows pulled together. "What?" She opened her eyes, meeting his stunned expression. "I tried to tell you," she repeated. 3 times. His heartbeat faltered. "No," he said, shaking his head. "That's not possible. I never saw—" "I know you didn't," she said softly. Her voice carried no accusation, just a tired truth she carried alone for too long. Henry stepped closer without realizing it. "When?" "The week after I found out," she said. And again a month later. And once more when things got harder. His stomach dropped. "Eliza, I swear, my messages never reached you," she continued gently. "Your assistant blocked them." The air left Henry's chest, He stared at her, stunned, speechless, searching for an explanation that didn't exist. Blocked them? He repeated faintly. Eliza nodded. Calls, emails, everything. Henry took a shaky step back and ran a hand across his forehead. The polished CEO facade cracked open completely. His voice sounded hollow. Why would she do that? Eliza shrugged softly. She thought she was protecting your career, and maybe she assumed I wasn't part of your life anymore. Henry pressed a hand against the wall for balance. He remembered that period, the impossible merger, the endless meetings, the way stress became his personality. He remembered letting distance grow without noticing. But this, missing everything because someone filtered his world for him. His eyes filled with a mixture of disbelief and guilt so sharp it felt physical. Eliza, he whispered. I would have been there. I would have shown up. I didn't know. Her expression softened, not into forgiveness, but into understanding. I believe you, she said quietly. I didn't always, but I do now. Henry looked at the floor, chest tightening so painfully he had to steady his breathing. 3 years, he murmured. I missed 3 years. Eliza exhaled, voice trembling with her own truth. It wasn't my intention to shut you out, Henry. I wasn't hiding them. I was healing. I was preparing myself to raise 2 children alone. And when I realized my messages never reached you, I told myself you'd moved on, or you were too overwhelmed, or maybe you didn't want responsibility then. Her words landed like stones in his chest. Do they know? He asked weakly. About me? They know your name, she said softly. They know you exist, but they don't know who you truly are. The silence that followed felt heavy enough to bend the air around them. Henry lifted his gaze, eyes glassy, breath uneven. Eliza, he whispered. Are they? Before he could finish, the sound of tiny footsteps echoed down the hallway. Amelia sprinted toward them with the speed of a child who never walked when she could run. Mommy, she called, her voice bouncing off the quiet walls. Scarlett followed gently, holding the skirt of her dress as she walked. Eliza wiped her face quickly and crouched down. What's wrong, sweethearts? Amelia pointed at the table behind them. They're giving out cookies, and Scarlett said we had to ask you first. Scarlett nodded seriously. Rules are important. Eliza glanced at Henry, the kind of look only 2 adults with a complicated past could exchange. Henry crouched slowly, trembling inside but careful not to show it. Hi, he said softly. The girls stared at him curiously. Scarlett tilted her head, studying his face the way she studied new puzzle pieces at home. Amelia squinted. You're the talking man from the stage. A breathless, broken laugh escaped Henry. Scarlett whispered, Why were you looking at us? Henry swallowed, his voice barely steady. Because, he began. Because I saw something I didn't expect. Eliza watched with a suspended breath, unsure how to guide this moment without pulling the truth too fast. Amelia poked Henry's tie. You look like you don't know what to say. Her innocence cracked something inside him even further. He looked at both twins, really looked, and felt truth settle into place like a weight he couldn't ignore. His voice broke as he said it. They're my daughters. Climax #2. The hallway fell quiet. Eliza closed her eyes, letting the truth rest softly between them instead of fighting it. Scarlett blinked. Amelia's mouth dropped open dramatically. My what? Amelia asked. Eliza stepped in quickly. We'll explain later, baby. Not here. Henry nodded, breath shaking, trying to respect the boundary even though his heart felt like it was breaking open and healing at the same time. Scarlett leaned into Eliza's leg, whispering, Is he staying? Eliza smoothed her daughter's curls gently. We're talking, she said softly. That's the first step. Henry's eyes glistened. For the first time in a long time, he didn't feel like a CEO. He didn't feel successful. He didn't feel powerful. He felt human, and very, very aware of everything he lost without even knowing. If the truth walked toward you wearing the faces of 2 children you never met, if the past you thought was gone returned in the form of responsibility and love, what would you do? Would you freeze? Would you run? Would you demand answers? Or would you finally step into the life you didn't know you missed? Whispers moved faster than footsteps in a crowded room. The moment Henry uttered the words, They're my daughters, the quiet hallway felt too small to contain the shift happening between them. But the ballroom? The ballroom felt even smaller. A guest near the entrance caught sight of the four of them standing together. Then another, then another. Henry straightened instinctively, not from pride but from panic. This was not how he wanted the truth to meet the world. Not here. Not like this. Eliza noticed the shifting attention before he did. She heard the murmurs rising like waves getting ready to crash. "Let's go," she said softly, gathering the twins close. Amelia didn't understand why her mother suddenly moved with urgency. Scarlett felt the tension, her small hand gripping Eliza's more tightly than before. Henry swallowed hard. "Do you want me to?" "No," Eliza cut in gently. "Not right now. I need to get them out quietly." He nodded, understanding more from her tone than her words. This wasn't rejection. It was protection. They stepped out of the hallway and back into the golden glow of the ballroom, but the atmosphere had changed completely. Conversations paused mid-sentence. Glasses lowered. Donors turned their heads in unison, like a silent choreography of curiosity and confusion. Henry saw it in their eyes, the questions forming, the assumptions building, the headlines already writing themselves in people's minds. What is going on? Are those his... Did he have a secret family? No one said he had kids, but look at them. Eliza lifted her chin, not defiantly, just with the quiet strength of a mother who refused to let strangers' curiosity disturb her daughters. "Girls," she said softly, "let's grab your coats." Scarlett nodded. Amelia hesitated. "But we didn't get juice." "We'll get some at home," Eliza whispered. Henry walked beside them but kept his distance, a respectful shadow, protecting without claiming. A donor stepped forward, brows raised. "Henry, is everything all right?" Henry froze. Eliza's pulse jumped. The twins looked up. He inhaled slowly and answered with the calmest truth he could manage. "I'm handling something important. Please excuse me." His voice was steady, but his eyes were chaos held together by sheer will. The donor backed off immediately, but another guest whispered too loudly. "They look just like him." Eliza tightened her grip around Amelia and Scarlett. Henry stepped forward slightly, instinctively placing himself between the twins and the curious stares. It wasn't a declaration, it was a reflex. Eliza noticed, and for the first time tonight, something inside her warmed. When they reached the lobby doors, the twins began bundling into their coats. Amelia wrestled with a sleeve like she was fighting an invisible enemy. Scarlett hummed softly, focused and neat. Eliza zipped their coats, then turned to Henry. "Thank you for giving us space," she said. He nodded, pain pulling at his expression. "Can I walk you to your car?" "No," she said gently. "The girls need calm, not questions, not flashing cameras, not attention." He swallowed his disappointment. "I understand." For a second, neither moved. Not because they didn't know what to do, but because walking away from this moment meant stepping into something neither of them were emotionally prepared for. "Will you text me when you get home?" Henry asked quietly. "Just so I know the girls made it safely." Eliza didn't expect a request. It was small, soft, sincere. "Yes," she said. The twins tugged at her hands. "Mommy," Scarlett whispered, "can he come with us?" Eliza's heart squeezed tightly. Henry exhaled, eyes glistening. "Not tonight, sweetheart." Amelia frowned. "Why not?" Eliza crouched to their level. "Because tonight has been a big day, and Mommy needs to help you understand everything at home." Scarlett accepted the explanation immediately. Amelia accepted nothing immediately. Henry gently placed a hand over his chest. "I'll see you again soon," he whispered. The warmth in his tone settled into the air like a quiet promise. Eliza led the twins outside, into the crisp air. Their little boots tapped against the pavement as they walked toward the parking lot. Henry stood at the entrance, watching them go. Amelia turned around and waved wildly. Scarlett gave a small, shy wave after her sister insisted. Eliza opened the car door, buckled them in, closed the trunk, and finally drove off. Henry didn't move. He stayed rooted in place until the taillights disappeared from view. When Henry finally reached his penthouse, the city lights no longer comforted him. His home felt too quiet, too large, too empty to hold the emotions erupting inside him. He sank onto the couch, elbows braced on his knees. 3 years. He missed 3 years. Not from choice, but from blindness, from stress, from trusting someone who filtered his life without asking. He pressed his hands against his face, eyes burning. He wasn't angry at Eliza. He wasn't angry at the twins. He was angry at himself. at the version of him who once believed work required him to disconnect from everything soft, everything human. His phone vibrated. For a moment, hope lifted his chest. But it wasn't her. It wasn't yet. He stared at the wall, replaying Scarlett's gentle curiosity, Amelia's bold questions, Eliza's steady strength. He felt grief and awe mixing in ways he didn't know how to separate. He didn't cry often, but he cried now, quietly, openly, deeply, tears that belonged to a father who just learned he was a father. At home, after washing off makeup and tucking the twins into bed, Eliza sat alone on the couch. The house felt too silent after such an explosive evening, and her thoughts refused to settle. She reached for her phone. She hadn't texted him yet. She should have. She promised she would. But Eliza needed a moment to breathe before diving back into the reality that had just reshaped her entire life. Her phone buzzed. "Henry, are you home? Are the girls okay?" She exhaled slowly. "Eliza, yes, we're home. They're asleep." Seconds later. "Henry, thank you. I know tonight was overwhelming. If you're willing, I'd like to talk tomorrow, just talk." Eliza hesitated. Her heart was cautious. Her mind was protective. But her spirit recognized something in Henry's messages, accountability, not excuses. She typed, "Tomorrow. Coffee shop. 10 a.m. Before she could overthink, she pressed send. Her chest loosened. Her future didn't feel certain, but it didn't feel frightening either. Comment below, should a man be forgiven if he truly never knew the truth? I want to hear your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that touch the heart. The next morning arrived with the kind of quiet that felt heavier than usual. A pale gray sky stretched over Cleveland, matching the uncertainty sitting in Eliza's chest as she dressed for the meeting. She didn't choose anything dramatic, just a soft sweater, jeans, and the coat she wore on busy mornings. She wasn't preparing for romance. She wasn't preparing for conflict either. This was something different. This was a conversation years overdue. The twins were at home with Miss Tay for the hour. Amelia had protested dramatically, insisting she needed to supervise the coffee shop to make sure the beans weren't burnt. Scarlett simply asked Henry's name again, before nodding quietly. Eliza's heart felt stretched between past and present. She stepped into Bean and Blessings, the local coffee shop known for warm lighting, kind staff, and the scent of cinnamon that had lived in its walls since before she moved to Cleveland. Henry was already there. He stood when she walked in, no hesitation, no half-effort. A quiet acknowledgement of respect. He wasn't wearing a suit this time, just a simple shirt and jacket, the kind of outfit a man chooses when he wants to show he's here to listen, not lead. "Eliza," he said softly. She nodded. "Henry." They sat across from each other. It wasn't tense. It wasn't comfortable either. It was necessary. A server came by with 2 waters. Henry didn't rush to order. He didn't assume her taste, something the old him might have done. Only when she reached for a menu did he do the same. When the server returned, Eliza ordered a caramel latte. Henry ordered plain black coffee, though his hands trembled slightly when he set the menu down. The silence that followed lasted a moment, not because they had nothing to say, but because their words needed care. Henry took a slow breath. "Thank you for meeting me," he began. "I know last night wasn't easy." "It wasn't," Eliza replied honestly, "but it was the truth. And the truth needs space." He nodded, eyes on her but softened with humility. "I meant every word I said. I didn't know, Eliza. I swear on whatever part of me still deserves forgiveness. I didn't know." She studied him quietly. He wasn't defensive. He wasn't performing. He looked tired, shaken, and deeply remorseful. "I believe you," she said. Henry inhaled slowly, a relieved breath he'd been holding for 3 years. "But," she continued gently, "believing you doesn't erase the reality I've lived. I've raised them alone, Henry. Every cough, every scraped knee, every night they couldn't sleep, every question they had about fathers and families. That was me." He swallowed hard, guilt tightening his jaw. "I know. And I want to help now. I want to be part of their world. I want to show up in ways I didn't get to before." Eliza held up her hand. "Before anything happens, we need boundaries." He nodded quickly. "Whatever you need. No gifts," she said firmly. "That's not how this starts. They don't need material things from you right now." "Of course," he agreed. "No gifts. No rushing," she added. "You may want to jump into a role you feel you missed, but the girls, they need slow steps, comfort, stability, not sudden changes. Slow, he echoed. I can do slow. And no emotional confusion, she continued. For them, and for us. They need clarity, not blurred lines. Henry looked down at his hands, then up at her. Eliza, he said softly, I'm not here to complicate your heart. I'm here to take responsibility. One step at a time. She didn't expect that kind of maturity, not from the man she once knew. But people change, she reminded herself. Sometimes heartbreak is the soil growth rises from. Their drinks arrived, breaking the tension for a moment. Eliza wrapped her hands around the warm cup. Look, she said, softening slightly. I'm not trying to punish you. I'm trying to protect them. I want that too, Henry said. More than anything. Before she could respond, the door swung open. Amelia burst into the shop like a small tornado of energy. Mommy, we saw your car wasn't home, so we came to see why. Scarlett followed more slowly, head turning curiously toward Henry. Eliza nearly choked. Girls, where's Miss Tay? Miss Tay jogged in behind them, breathless. I'm so sorry, Eliza. They insisted they needed to check something important. Amelia marched right up to Henry. You were looking at us yesterday, she declared. Why? Henry blinked. Eliza's heart thudded. Miss Tay mouthed, I'm sorry, before backing toward the door. Scarlett stood closer to her mother, unsure. Henry bent slightly to Amelia's eye level. I was thinking about something important, he said gently. Amelia squinted. Is it because you have the same eyebrows as Scarlett? Mommy said eyebrows come from families. Eliza froze. Scarlett leaned closer to Henry, studying him with a quiet seriousness that could melt anyone. You don't look scary, Scarlett said thoughtfully. Just sad. Henry let out a breath that wavered. I'm trying not to be sad. Scarlett moved closer and placed her small hand on his. Okay, it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was a small, simple gesture, but it shifted something inside all of them. Eliza's throat tightened. Henry held still, terrified a single movement would break the moment. Scarlett glanced up at her mother. Can he come to the park later? Amelia beamed. Yes, I need to show him how high I can swing. Eliza's heartbeat stumbled. Everything was happening sooner than she planned. Girls, she said softly, we're still figuring things out. But he's nice, Scarlett whispered. Henry looked at Eliza with a quiet plea, not pressure, just hope. She exhaled. Fine, she said gently. But an hour. And calm play. Amelia cheered. Scarlett nodded once, satisfied. Henry's eyes glistened with gratitude. They weren't a family. Not yet. But something was forming. Something fragile. Something new. Something earned. Should redemption begin with grand gestures? Or with small, consistent steps that prove a heart has changed? Saturday morning carried its own kind of energy at the community center. The hallways buzzed with movement, children running, sneakers squeaking on the gym floor, folding chairs scraping against the tile as volunteers set up different activity stations. It was a place filled with motion and noise, but beneath it, a steady hum of belonging existed. Eliza walked in with Amelia and Scarlett, holding both backpacks as the girls moved ahead of her. Scarlett scanned the room with her usual quiet awareness, her fingers lightly brushing the zipper of her sweater. Amelia had already begun waving at anyone who made eye contact. Today was Henry's first intentional day, not accidental, not emotional overflow from the gala, not shock, a planned step, a chosen step. Eliza inhaled deeply. She had allowed this moment, but she wasn't letting go of caution. From across the gym, Henry stood near the bulletin board again. He wasn't lost this time. He wasn't stiff or out of place. He looked nervous, yes, but also prepared. He said he wanted to learn their world. And here he was. When he spotted the twins, something like relief softened his shoulders. Scarlett took a few small steps forward, pausing halfway. Amelia didn't wait at all. Mr. Henry, she shouted. Henry crouched, something he was learning to do often. Good morning, he said, smiling warmly. Scarlett walked slower, standing a bit behind her sister. Her eyes flicked from Henry's face to his hands, then back again, as if she were collecting information quietly. Eliza approached with measured steps. Thanks for being on time, she said. Henry nodded. Of course, I didn't want them wondering where I was. Scarlett tugged lightly on the sleeve of her sweater. Did you eat breakfast? She whispered to him. Henry blinked, surprised by the tiny unexpected question. I did, he said softly. Did you? She nodded once, satisfied. Amelia rolled her eyes. Scarlett always asks that. She thinks everybody forgets to eat. Well, Henry said, it's a good thing to care about. Eliza watched him, not with romantic longing but with careful assessment. This was new territory. She needed to know what he was going to be like around their daughters. She needed to see consistency, patience, humility. So far, he was hitting the right notes. All right, Eliza said, shifting into the tone she always used when guiding the morning activities. They're starting with the ball mat today. Amelia grabbed Henry's hand instantly. Come on, you don't know how to play any of our games yet. Scarlett stayed at Eliza's side. Mommy, she whispered, should he come with us? Eliza bent slightly. If you want him to, yes. Scarlett nodded and slipped her smaller hand into Henry's free one. That simple act tightened something deep in his chest. At the ball mat, Amelia immediately invented rules that nobody else understood. You roll it this way, she explained to Henry, pointing left. No, wait, that's wrong. You roll it that way. Unless you're small. Then you roll it toward me. Henry tried to follow, but Amelia changed directions mid-sentence. Scarlett tapped her chin quietly. Just roll it to me, she said calmly. Henry rolled the ball gently. Scarlett received it with a small smile, as if this simple exchange had built a tiny bridge between them. Amelia took her turn, launching the ball so hard it bounced completely off the mat. That's not how we do it, Scarlett said. It's absolutely how we do it, Amelia argued. Henry looked between them. Do you both always play differently? Yes, both girls answered at the same time. Henry laughed, genuinely, without forcing it. I can keep up. Eliza crossed her arms lightly, watching. She wasn't stepping in. She wanted to see how Henry adapted. He adapted well. He knelt low so they wouldn't feel overshadowed. He celebrated their efforts without overdoing it. He let them lead, instead of turning the moment into performance. This was new, and it mattered. The moment Henry seemed to settle in, a familiar voice rose behind Eliza. Well, look who decided to show up again, Miss Brenda announced, hands on her hips. Eliza closed her eyes for a second. Please, not now, she whispered. Henry straightened politely. Good morning, Miss Brenda. Brenda nodded slowly, scanning him from head to toe like she was inspecting produce at a market. You look nervous, she declared. I am, Henry admitted. Good, Brenda said. Keeps you honest. Eliza nearly choked. Brenda continued. Now go ahead and help those babies. Don't stand here acting like you don't know what to do. Henry nodded quickly and returned to the twins. Brenda leaned toward Eliza. He's trying. I know, Eliza replied quietly. And he looks like he means it. I know. And he's tall. Miss Brenda. I'm just making observations, Brenda said, shrugging. Anyway, watch him. He's learning them. That matters. Eliza lowered her gaze. It did matter, more than she wanted to admit. Snack time arrived, and with it, the juice pouches. Amelia ripped hers open dramatically. Scarlett sipped hers with small, careful movements. Henry reached for one and tried to help. Tried. The straw bent instantly. He attempted again. It bent further. Then, a small splash shot out, landing right on his sleeve. Amelia burst into laughter. You're not good at this. Henry laughed sheepishly. Clearly. Scarlett walked over quietly, took the pouch from his hands, and slid the straw in neatly without spilling a drop. She handed it back to him without a word. He froze for a second, struck by how natural the moment felt. Thank you, he said softly. Scarlett nodded and returned to her seat. Eliza watched this tiny exchange and felt her breath shift. Moments like that, gentle, simple, instinctive, mattered more than big gestures ever could. They showed connection. They showed patience. They showed learning. Henry wasn't trying to impress. He was simply trying. While the twins colored at the table, Henry joined them, carefully following Amelia's instructions on how to draw a unicorn. Make the horn straight, she said. It is straight, he insisted. No, it's tired, Scarlett said quietly. Henry squinted. I don't think unicorns get tired. Yours does. Scarlett had a point. Henry sighed theatrically. All right, I'll fix it. Eliza watched this unfold. The playfulness, the ease, the small moments of connection. She didn't expect it to pull at her heart the way it did. Henry wasn't the same man she left years ago. Pressure had carved him. Loss had softened him. Truth had humbled him. And for the first time since the chaos of the gala, she allowed herself to believe that growth was possible. Not guaranteed, but possible. When the twins moved to another activity, Henry stepped closer to Eliza, but still kept respectful distance. "I know I'm at the beginning," he said quietly, "but I'm grateful you're letting me try." "You're doing well," Eliza replied. He exhaled deeply. "I'm trying to be the version of myself the girls deserve." Eliza lowered her gaze. "I see that, and I know I wasn't that version in the past," he added. She didn't argue. He continued, "I want to earn your trust without rushing. I want to be consistent, reliable, present." Eliza studied him for a long moment. "I'm not promising anything," she whispered. "I'm not asking for promises," he said. "Just the chance to show up." Their eyes held each other for a moment. Not romantic, not heavy, just honest. A beginning. If you're still here and loving the journey, go ahead and hit that like button so this story reaches even more people who need it. Eliza wasn't expecting anything out of the ordinary that morning. The sun had just started climbing above the rooftops, giving the neighborhood a soft orange glow. The twins were still in pajamas, Amelia humming loudly while brushing her hair, Scarlett quietly lining up her little books on the couch. It was supposed to be a normal day, but life had a habit of knocking when you least wanted the door to open. Around 9:14 a.m., Eliza heard it. 3 firm taps at the front door. She froze. The twins froze. Scarlett whispered, "Mommy, is someone here?" Eliza kept her voice calm. "Stay in the living room. Don't move." She walked to the door quietly, her heartbeat steady but alert. Years of single motherhood gave her instincts she didn't play with. She peeked through the peephole. Henry, not dressed for work, not dressed for meetings. A simple sweatshirt, jeans, no coat, despite the morning chill. But what unsettled her wasn't the clothes. It was his face. Something was wrong, very wrong. She opened the door halfway. "Henry, what happened?" He didn't step forward, didn't push inside. He kept to the threshold, like he wasn't sure he deserved more than that space. "Eliza," he said quietly, "I need to talk to you. It's important." His voice was steady, but beneath it, shaken. "Come in," she said, stepping aside. He entered slowly, hands in his pockets, shoulders tight. Scarlett peeked from behind the couch, thumb hovering near her mouth. Amelia walked right up to him. "You look upset," she announced bluntly. Henry tried for a smile, but failed. "A little, yeah. What happened?" Amelia asked, squinting like a detective. Eliza gently guided both girls back. "Give us a moment, okay? Go finish your cereal." Amelia protested, but obeyed. Scarlett followed silently, still watching Henry. Eliza turned back to him. "What is it?" Henry took a long breath, steadying himself. "I got a call this morning. From my assistant." Her entire body stiffened. "The same one from before?" He nodded. Eliza folded her arms tightly. "What did she say?" "That she blocked every message you ever sent," Henry said. "Every call, every email." She admitted it. Eliza didn't speak. Her chest felt hollowed out, like someone had reached inside and taken the air with them. Henry continued, "She said she thought she was protecting my career and that you were a distraction." Eliza shut her eyes, not to cry, but to keep the anger steady. "She decided that—" "Yes," Henry whispered. "And she didn't just block them, she deleted them, hid them, took your pregnancy news and buried it." Eliza's breath caught. "She saw that message." "She did," he said, "and she chose to erase it." A wave of old pain washed through Eliza, but she held her expression still. She refused to break in front of something she'd already survived. "What else did she say?" Eliza asked. Henry hesitated. "She admitted she was prepared to lie for me if anything ever went public. She said she'd defend me no matter what, even if it meant painting you as someone trying to get attention." Eliza's stomach twisted. For years she carried the weight of, maybe he didn't care. For years she fought through postpartum hormones, loneliness, exhaustion, and judgment, all while believing he simply didn't show up. But now she was learning that someone stole her voice before it even reached him. Eliza steadied herself. "So she controlled your entire world." Henry nodded. "And I let her. I didn't know, but I trusted her too much, and because of that, I missed 3 years of their lives." His voice broke at the end. Eliza swallowed gently. "Henry." He reached into his pocket, retrieved his phone, and held it out. "She forwarded your original message," he said. "The one you sent when you first tried to tell me." Eliza took the phone slowly. Her own words filled the screen. "Henry, I'm scared. I don't know how to say this, but I'm pregnant. Please call me. I need you." She stared at it, at the version of herself she remembered vividly. A younger woman standing in her kitchen late at night, holding her stomach, praying he would say something, anything. Emotion tightened her throat. "I wrote that at 2 a.m, she whispered. "I sat on the floor for an hour hoping you'd call back." Henry closed his eyes. "I never saw it, I swear to you. I never saw any of it." She believed him, not because she wanted to, but because she finally understood how the truth had been buried. "How long have you known about the blocked messages?" she asked. "Since 30 minutes ago," Henry said softly, "and I drove straight here." Eliza breathed out slowly. "You're hurt." "I'm furious," he corrected, voice tight. "At myself, at the situation, at the years I lost, at the moments I can't get back." He looked toward the living room, where Amelia and Scarlett sat, whispering to each other with cereal bowls in their laps. "I missed their first laugh," he said. "Their first words, their first steps, their first birthday, their second birthday, their third birthday. I missed everything." Eliza stepped closer, not in romance, not in forgiveness, but in empathy. "You didn't know," she said. "But I should have been reachable," he replied. "I should have seen signs. I should have made space for you back then." "You were drowning in work," Eliza reminded him. "Barely sleeping. Your whole company was on your shoulders. I still should have shown up," he whispered. "For you, for them, for the family I didn't know I had." Before Eliza could respond, tiny footsteps tapped across the floor. Scarlett peeked around the corner. "Is he staying?" Eliza brushed her daughter's hair. "For a little bit, yes." Scarlett walked straight to Henry. She studied his face closely, her quiet, thoughtful gaze locking onto his. "You look like you did something wrong," she said softly. Henry lowered himself to her height. "I kind of did." Scarlett pressed her fingers together. "Did you break something?" "No," Henry said, voice unsteady. "But something broke anyway." Scarlett thought about this. "Did you say sorry?" Henry nodded. "Yes." "Okay," she said, leaning forward just enough for her forehead to touch his shoulder. A tiny, simple gesture. "Then you can fix it." Henry's breath caught. Eliza's eyes stung. Scarlett stepped back and walked to the couch, as if she hadn't just delivered a soft miracle. Amelia jumped in next. "Why are you sad? Did someone steal your cookies?" "That's her version of comfort," Eliza whispered. Henry chuckled weakly. "No one stole my cookies." "Then why are you sad?" Amelia repeated. Henry looked at both girls, their faces so fresh, so unburdened, so welcoming without expecting. "Because," he said quietly, "I missed a lot of things I wish I didn't miss." Amelia nodded knowingly. "Like when I missed the school pet show because Mommy said I had a cold?" "Yes," Henry whispered. "Exactly like that." "Mommy gave me soup," Amelia added proudly. Henry smiled. "I'm sure she did." Eliza stepped forward, steadying the moment. "Girls, give us one more minute, okay?" They ran off again, loud, joyful, chaotic. Henry watched them until they disappeared into the hallway. Then he turned to Eliza. "What do I do now?" he asked. Eliza didn't rush her answer. "You start by showing up," she said, "by being here consistently, by letting them get to know you at their pace, by respecting the years you missed, instead of trying to cram everything into one day." Henry nodded slowly. "And Eliza," he whispered, "I want to earn a place again, not force it. Earn it." She exhaled, not from frustration, but from something gentler. "Then take it step by step," she said. "That's how trust grows." He lifted his eyes to hers. "And us?" he asked softly. Eliza's heart skipped. "We're rebuilding, Henry," she replied. "But that doesn't mean we're rushing." "I'm not rushing," he said. "I just want you to know that I see you now, the woman you are now, the mother you became, and I don't take any of it lightly." Her breath tightened. "I'll accept your growth," she said, "but not your promises." He nodded once. "I'll offer actions instead." Before she could respond, Amelia yelled from the hallway, "Mommy, Scarlett found the glitter box." Eliza groaned. "Lord help us." Henry smiled, the first real smile since he arrived. "Can I help?" he asked. Eliza met his eyes. "Yes," she said quietly. "You can." And just like that, the past didn't vanish. But the path forward became clearer. If someone missed the truth, because the truth was stolen, do they deserve a chance to rebuild? Or does the past still hold the final say? Life rarely gives clean answers, but growth begins when honesty finally steps through the door. Consistency was a quiet promise, not loud, not dramatic, not dressed in speeches. It showed up in simple choices, morning messages, afternoon check-ins, evening calls asking only, "How are the girls today?" And Henry kept showing up, not perfectly, not with gifts, not with grand gestures. He just showed up, day after day. At first, Eliza braced for him to slip. The old version of him always slipped. He drowned in schedules, forgot birthdays, missed lunches, got swallowed by stress until the world outside the company barely existed. But this version built time into his day like it was a sacred thing. If Eliza said the twins had art time at 4 p.m., he was there at 3:55. If Scarlett needed space, he learned to step back. If Amelia demanded a race on the playground, he tied his shoes and sprinted like he was training for a trophy. Slowly, something shifted. The twins had never had a father figure before. Their attachment didn't arrive in a straight line. It came at its own rhythm. Scarlett, quiet as she always was, began studying him less like a stranger and more like someone she wanted to understand. When he knelt beside her during activities, she didn't back away anymore. She simply watched him and nodded when he followed her instructions. Amelia's bond came in waves, loud, energetic waves. She started introducing him to people. "This is Mr. Henry. He's learning," or "He's not fast yet, but he tries," or the classic Amelia honesty. "He doesn't know how to open juice pouches, but he's good at other things." Henry laughed through every single observation, and every time he laughed, Eliza felt something loosen in her chest. The community center was lively again. Kids running around, instructors setting up stations, the usual blend of noise that somehow sounded like comfort. Eliza watched the twins burst through the doors ahead of her. Amelia sprinted toward the coloring tables. Scarlett stayed closer, scanning for Henry. "There he is," Amelia yelled, pointing dramatically. Henry stood near the back wall, kneeling to help another child tie shoelaces. That alone made Eliza pause. He wasn't just showing up for his daughters, he was adapting to the entire atmosphere. When he spotted them, his entire expression softened. Scarlett walked straight to him and placed her small hand in his without a word. That had never happened before. Henry looked up at Eliza for confirmation, not wanting to assume anything. She nodded slightly. He smiled at Scarlett. "Ready for your day?" She nodded once, gripping him tighter. Eliza inhaled slowly. It wasn't romance she felt, not yet, but watching someone rise into their role with humility. That touched something deep. One of Henry's biggest changes was simple. He stopped trying to lead. When Amelia explained activity rules, he knelt to her height. When Scarlett hesitated before participating, he stood beside her quietly. When Eliza gave directions he didn't question, didn't interrupt, he followed. He was becoming a man who listened before acting. At snack time, Amelia handed him a sticker sheet. "You can put stickers on your face," she instructed. "That's how we play." He blinked. "On my face?" "Yes, that's the rule." Scarlett nodded to confirm. Henry didn't hesitate. He stuck a neon green star on his forehead and another on his cheek. Amelia clapped dramatically. "Mommy, look. He's learning faster now." Eliza bit the inside of her cheek to hold back a smile. "Yes," she said. "He's doing well." Scarlett reached up and placed a small purple heart sticker on his other cheek. "Now you look right." Henry's breath caught at the simplicity of it, how acceptance from a child could land so deeply. Eliza watched the moment unfold. Every day, the man in front of her shed another layer of who he used to be. She had prayed once, long ago during nights of loneliness, that he would become gentle, patient, steady. Now he was quietly becoming exactly that. 3 days later, a heavy rainstorm swept through the neighborhood. The droplets hit the windows with steady rhythm, creating a muted roar above the community center roof. Inside, the twins' class was wrapping up when the storm intensified. Thunder rolled, loud enough that Amelia jumped. Scarlett froze entirely. Eliza started gathering their things quickly. "We'll wait a little before walking to the car." Amelia stuck close to her side, holding onto her sleeve with tight fingers. Scarlett stood still, trapped between fear and wanting to appear calm. Henry walked in, soaked from the dash between his car and the entrance, but smiling despite it. "Wow," he said softly, shaking water from his hair. That storm came out of nowhere. Another thunderclap struck, louder this time. Scarlett flinched. Her bottom lip trembled. She glanced at her mother, but something pulled her in another direction. She ran straight into Henry's arms. Not halfway, not cautiously, not inching forward like she usually did. She launched herself at him. Henry froze at first, surprised, then wrapped his arms around her gently, carefully, like holding something delicate he didn't want to crush. "It's okay," he whispered. "I've got you." Scarlett's arms tightened around his neck. Amelia stared, wide-eyed. Scarlett never does that. Eliza felt her knees weaken for a moment, not from shock, but from recognition. Children don't fake attachment. Scarlett didn't choose people easily. She rarely ran to anyone, but she ran to him. Henry held her close as the storm continued. "You're safe," he murmured. "I promise." Eliza closed her eyes. That sentence, "I promise." Once it would have felt hollow. Now, it sounded earned. The storm lingered, forcing them to wait inside for a few minutes. Scarlett stayed in Henry's arms the entire time, her head tucked into his shoulder. Amelia eventually climbed into his lap too, declaring it was unfair that Scarlett got all the holding time. Henry carried both girls like it was the most natural thing in the world. Eliza felt something shift quietly inside her. Not forgiveness, not love renewed, not nostalgia. Something new, something grounded, something she hadn't let herself feel in a long time. Possibility. That night, after the girls were asleep, Eliza sat on the couch replaying the moment when Scarlett ran to him. Her heart tightened, not from pain, but from recognition. She whispered to herself, "He's becoming the man I once prayed he'd be. Not perfect, not flawless, but present, gentle, willing." The version of him she once dreamed of was no longer a fantasy she had to let go of. He was building himself day by day, step by step. And for the first time in years, Eliza didn't feel like she was raising the twins alone. She felt like the universe had paused and asked her softly, "Are you ready to let the past shift into something new?" Eliza didn't answer out loud, but she exhaled, deeply, slowly, and in that exhale lived the beginning of acceptance. The storm that began earlier in the week had returned by Saturday evening, heavier this time. Wind pushed against the windows of Eliza's apartment, and long streams of rain slid down the glass like the night couldn't decide when to stop. The twins were on the living room rug, building a small tower of blocks. Amelia stacked hers fast and loud. Scarlett placed hers carefully, making sure each piece balanced before moving on. Their personalities were clear in everything they did. Henry arrived carrying a bag of learning cards, not toys, not gifts, just tools the girls could use at home. He followed every rule Eliza set, even the uncomfortable ones. No grand surprises, no overstepping, no mixed signals. Every action of his flowed with intention. Eliza opened the door, surprised by how soaked he was again. "You walked through the storm?" "Yes," he said lightly, brushing his hair back. "A few raindrops don't scare me." "A few?" Eliza raised a brow. He looked like he'd wrestled a waterfall, but she didn't say it aloud. As he stepped inside, Amelia ran over immediately. "You're wet," she declared, "like a walking puddle." Henry laughed softly. "I take that as an accurate observation." Scarlett approached more quietly, staring at the drops sliding down his jacket sleeve. "You need a towel," she whispered. Henry nodded. "I do." Eliza handed him one, and the simplicity of the exchange, her offering, him accepting, carried a softness she wasn't ready to name. When another roar of thunder echoed, Amelia squealed and dove under the blanket fort she and Scarlett had built. Scarlett jumped but didn't panic. Instead, she walked straight to Henry again, not running this time, just drifting toward him as if he was the calmest place in the room. He knelt, lowering himself to her level. "Are you okay?" Scarlett nodded, but her fingers twisted together nervously. That was enough for Henry. He sat on the carpet and opened his arms. She eased into them without hesitation. Eliza stood by the kitchen doorway, watching the scene unfold. She wasn't jealous. She wasn't threatened. She wasn't nervous. She was moved. Henry carried the weight of connection with a gentleness that felt new, not forced, not performative, simply natural. Amelia poked her head out of the blanket fort. "If she gets to sit with you, I get to sit too," she declared. Henry chuckled. "Come on." She dove forward dramatically and landed on his knee, nearly knocking him backward. "Amelia," Eliza warned, "gentle." "I am gentle," Amelia insisted. Henry steadied himself. "It's okay. I can handle it." And somehow, he could. He held both girls in a way that didn't look strained or overwhelmed. He looked like a man settling into a role he had longed for without knowing it. Rain hit harder. Thunder rolled deeper. Inside, a different kind of quiet settled over the room. Eventually, the twins grew tired and drifted toward their room to grab toys. Their giggles echoed down the hallway, leaving Henry and Eliza alone in the living room. For the first time in days, there was no distraction, no center schedule, no community noise, no other parents, no boundaries needing immediate reinforcement. Just the two of them, in a warm apartment, during a heavy storm. Henry wiped a stray drop of water from his forehead and let out a long breath. "Eliza," he said quietly, "can I tell you something?" She didn't answer right away. She leaned against the wall, crossing her arms gently. "Depends. It's not about rushing," he said. "I know where we stand. I know what you said at the community center. I know trust isn't something I can demand." She exhaled. "Okay. Go on." Henry looked around the room, at the toys scattered neatly in clusters, at the blanket fort Amelia insisted on keeping up all week, at the small drawings taped on the fridge. "I come here and it feels like everything I never knew I needed." Eliza's heart tightened, not in weakness, in recognition. Henry continued, voice steady, being around them, being around you, being present in something real. It shifts something in me every day. Eliza swallowed, holding her expression firm. "And I know I'm not supposed to say this yet," Henry went on, "but being here reminds me of what I lost, and maybe even what I still want." Eliza's breath sharpened. This was the conversation she had feared and expected. Rain pounded harder. "Henry," she said slowly, "we're not ready for that conversation. I know. You can't bring emotions into this, yet. I know. And you can't mix your healing with something romantic. I'm not trying to," Henry said gently. "I'm just being honest about what's surfacing." Eliza looked away, not because she was rejecting him, but because the truth in his voice made something inside her tremble. The version of him she once loved, the soft, attentive version, was standing in front of her now. Not the corporate machine she lost to long nights and endless deadlines. This Henry saw her. He saw the girls. He saw the life that could have existed. But she wasn't ready. She wasn't even sure she trusted her heart enough to listen. "Henry," she said again, softer this time, "we're rebuilding. We barely made it out of the past without drowning." "I know," he replied, nodding. "And I'm not asking for answers or decisions. I'm just letting you know where my heart is shifting." She met his eyes. "And I'm telling you, we need time." "I can give that," he whispered. "I can give all the time you need." Another thunderclap exploded outside, and Amelia came running back, holding a stuffed toy above her head dramatically. "Everyone hide. The sky is yelling." Scarlett followed more quietly, but stayed close to Henry. He opened his arms again without thinking. Both girls climbed into his lap at the same time. Eliza watched. Something inside her gave a quiet, reluctant sigh, not in frustration, but in release. She wasn't ready to call this love again. But she also couldn't deny what she was seeing. Something was shifting. Something subtle. Something real. A crossroads. A beginning. A quiet pull toward something she wasn't sure she could resist forever. Henry looked over the girls' heads at Eliza and mouthed silently, "I'll wait." And surprisingly, Eliza didn't feel pressure. She felt peace. If you're still watching and feeling this journey grow piece by piece, tell me in the comments, should Eliza give him a chance? Your opinion matters. Sunday morning brought a calm the city rarely offered. The rain had stopped during the night, leaving the streets damp but quiet. Sunlight peeked through clouds that still held a stubborn shade of gray, like the sky was trying to decide whether to brighten or stay somber. Eliza was at the dining table, finishing a small list of tasks, when her phone buzzed. A message from Henry. "Can I stop by?" Something important came up. Not bad. Just important. Her pulse lifted. After the conversation the previous night, gentle, heavy, honest, she wasn't sure if she was ready for important. But the tone of his message wasn't desperate. It wasn't emotional. It was steady. She typed back, "Come by. The girls are awake." While Scarlett and Amelia were in the living room building another tower with their blocks, Eliza took a deep breath. She reminded herself of the boundaries, the slow pace, the clear line she needed to hold until her heart caught up. A knock sounded at the door. She opened it to find Henry holding his phone in one hand, his expression serious, not panicked, not upset, but carrying a weight that had settled on him since early morning. "Morning," he said quietly. "Morning," she replied. "Come in." He stepped inside, glancing at the twins immediately. Amelia waved dramatically. Scarlett gave a small nod. Familiar, comfortable gestures, no hesitation this time. Eliza gestured toward the kitchen. "Let's talk for a second." Henry followed her, stopping at the counter. He didn't sit. He didn't lean. He simply stood straight, holding his phone like it contained the heart of what he needed to say. "What happened?" Eliza asked. "I found something," he said. "Something from years ago. Something I didn't expect to see." Her stomach tightened. "What is it?" Henry took a slow breath and turned his phone around. An email was on the screen. An email with her name. An email with her words. An email she had written long ago, before the twins were born, before she left, before everything shattered. A message she sent on a night she cried into her pillow, whispered prayers through fear, and hoped the man she loved would show up when she needed him most. The subject line read, "I don't know how to say this. Please read." Eliza stared at the screen. Her heartbeat deepened in her chest. How did you find that?" She whispered. "It wasn't in my inbox," Henry said. "It wasn't in my archives. It wasn't in deleted messages." He swallowed. "It was hidden in a restricted folder on my business account, one I didn't even know existed." Eliza blinked slowly, her breath unsteady. "The assistant?" she asked. Henry nodded. "Yes. She didn't only block messages. She rerouted this email into a folder she created herself, a folder labeled Noise." Eliza closed her eyes, not in anger, not in sadness, but in the exhaustion of truth finally surfacing after years of silence. She whispered, "She stole my words." Henry's expression tightened. "She stole your voice. She stole your right to be heard. She stole the moment that could have changed everything." He placed the phone gently on the counter. Eliza didn't touch it. She couldn't. Seeing that email again felt like stepping back into a fire she had already healed from. But now with the knowledge that she never should have burned in the first place. What did it say?" she asked, though she already knew. Henry answered softly, as if handling something fragile. "You told me you were pregnant. You said you were scared. You asked me to call you because you didn't know what to do. You said you weren't sure how I'd react, but you hoped I would at least respond so we could talk." His voice shook at the end. Eliza pressed her fingers against the edge of the counter to ground herself. "And I never saw it," Henry added, almost brokenly. "Not once. Not a single word." She lifted her eyes to him, and what she saw wasn't a man making excuses. It was a man grieving the version of himself he never got to be. A man mourning the lost years. A man trying to hold himself together through the shock. "I would have shown up," Henry whispered. "I would have changed everything. My schedule, my life, my plans. I would have been there, Eliza." "I know," she finally whispered. She didn't say it to comfort him. She said it because for the first time she believed it fully. He wasn't the man she once resented for absence. He was the man whose chance to be present had been stolen before he even knew he needed to fight for it. Silence stretched through the kitchen, not hostile, not distant, but layered with years of truth finally stepping into the open. Henry looked toward the living room, where the twins were playing, unaware of the earthquake unfolding in their parents' hearts. "I wanted to fire her immediately," Henry said. "I wanted to drive to her home and demand answers. I wanted to shout. But I didn't." "Why not?" Eliza asked softly. "Because anger won't give me back the years I lost, and it won't fix anything between us." Eliza's breath softened. Henry added, "But I am going to take accountability, real accountability, not for missing your messages, but for letting someone have that much power over my life." for not protecting my relationships better, for not being reachable to the people who mattered. He wasn't defensive. He wasn't minimizing. He wasn't shifting blame. This was a man standing fully in truth. "And Eliza," he said, meeting her gaze, "I'm sorry for everything you went through alone, for the pregnancy, for the fear, for the nights you cried and I didn't know, for every moment I should have been there." Her throat tightened. She had forgiven herself for surviving. She had forgiven life for being unfair, but hearing him acknowledge what she endured made something inside her unfreeze. She didn't cry. She didn't crumble. She didn't collapse into emotional release. But she softened in a way that mattered. Before Eliza could respond, Amelia peeked into the kitchen. "Mommy," she asked, "are we having lunch soon?" Eliza nodded. "Yes, baby." Scarlett appeared behind her, but her eyes went immediately to Henry. She studied him carefully, like she always did when sensing tension. Henry forced a small smile. "We're okay." Scarlett walked up, touched his hand gently, then walked away again. It was her way of acknowledging the emotional shift she had felt but couldn't name. Children always know more than adults give them credit for. When the twins drifted back to their toys, Henry turned to Eliza again. "I want to move forward with truth," he said quietly. "Step by step, at your pace, with no pressure. But I needed you to know everything." Eliza nodded. He took a slow breath. "Eliza, if I had known about the twins, if I had known you were carrying them, everything would have been different. Our lives would have been different." Her eyes softened, but her voice remained steady. "I know." A new kind of tension filled the air, not the painful kind, not the angry kind, but the kind that holds potential in two hands and asks, "What now?" Eliza looked at him with new honesty. "For the first time," she said softly, "I believe you." Henry exhaled, a breath filled with years of weight finally lifting. When new truths rise from the past, they do not erase the hurt, but they can rewrite the path forward. Should the heart hold on to the pain of what happened, or embrace the truth of what never got the chance to happen? Sometimes healing means choosing which story deserves to lead the future. Morning light stretched across the apartment like a calm invitation. It had been 3 days since the revelation of the hidden email, and though the emotional weight of that truth still lingered in the air, something else had begun settling too, a new rhythm, a quiet one, a steady one, a rhythm that hinted at a family learning each other again. Henry knocked gently before entering, the same way he always did now. He never assumed. He never walked in without a signal. He waited for Eliza's soft come in, respecting the boundary she set between familiarity and the slow rebuilding they were navigating. When she opened the door, he stood there holding a small calendar, simple, nothing flashy, with handwritten notes marking the twins' activity days, nap times, little reminders about their preferences. He had copied the schedule she made on her fridge. "I wanted to make sure I keep track properly," he said quietly. Eliza took in the careful handwriting, the attention to detail. "You didn't have to rewrite all this." "I did," Henry replied, "because I need to understand their world, not expect them to fit into mine." That sentence landed gently, but deeply. Inside, Amelia was already bouncing on the sofa cushions, pretending the floor was a lava river, while Scarlett lined up her favorite books in a neat row. Their personalities had blossomed even more now that they felt safe around him. "Henry," Amelia called. "You're here. Come on, we have new rules today." Henry blinked. "New rules?" "Yes," she declared proudly. "I make new rules every day." Scarlett nodded with quiet authority, as if confirming her sister's announcement. Henry crouched beside her. "And do you agree with all of them?" Scarlett tilted her head in thought, then shrugged. "Mostly." Eliza hid a smile. This was what rebuilding looked like. Small, playful exchanges, gentle trust forming in layers. Not perfection, not overnight bonding, just presence. Children always test people they're learning to trust, not in defiance, but in curiosity. And the twins had entered that phase. Amelia jumped off the couch, stomped once dramatically, and pointed a tiny finger at him. "You have to play lava game with us, but you can't step on the blue blanket. Only the green one." Henry looked around. "There's no green blanket." "There will be," Amelia said, racing to the bedroom. Scarlett stayed near him, offering a quiet translation. She always tests new players. "Oh?" Henry asked, kneeling down so he didn't appear imposing. Scarlett nodded seriously. "She wants to see if you'll follow the rules, even if they don't make sense yet." Henry chuckled. Fair enough. And what about you? Do you test new players too? Scarlett shook her head. I just watch first. And am I doing okay so far? She studied him carefully, taking her time. Then she nodded. You're learning. When Amelia ran back and dragging a folded green blanket like a cape, Henry stood immediately, not to lead the game, but to follow their rhythm, to let them guide him into their world. For a moment, Eliza just watched from the kitchen doorway, arms crossed loosely. Her chest warmed at how naturally the three of them moved together. The lava game lasted longer than Eliza expected. Henry didn't try to win. He didn't try to show them how to play better. He simply embraced their chaos, stepped where they told him to, jumped when Amelia insisted, froze when Scarlett whispered a new twist to the rules. When he accidentally stepped on the wrong spot, Amelia gasped. You fell in the lava. Henry stumbled dramatically, clutching his chest. Tell my family I love them. Scarlett shook her head. You're not dead. You just have to crawl. Crawl? Henry asked. It's the rule, Scarlett murmured, soft but firm. So he crawled. Eliza laughed under her breath. Henry looked up once and caught that laugh, small, almost shy, like the version of Eliza he remembered from long before everything fractured. Her smile flickered only for a moment before she caught herself. But he noticed. Not in a hopeful way. Not in a possessive way. In a grateful way, like seeing sunlight after weeks of cloud. Later in the afternoon, Eliza found herself folding laundry while Henry helped Amelia with a puzzle at the coffee table. Scarlett lingered beside them, analyzing each piece. Eliza watched them from a distance, watched Henry nod patiently every time Amelia got frustrated, watched him celebrate Scarlett's quiet triumph when she placed a piece correctly, watched him slow down, soften, adjust. He wasn't trying to perform for her. He wasn't trying to impress. He was simply showing up with sincerity, and that sincerity was dangerous, because it was working. Feelings she buried in the years of pain began resurfacing, not forcefully, but slowly, like gentle waves tapping the shore. She whispered to herself, don't rush, don't trust too quickly, don't confuse presence with permanence. But somewhere beneath those protective mantras, another thought surfaced too. He's growing, and I see it. When the twins moved to the living room to draw, Henry approached Eliza in the kitchen. I noticed Amelia gets frustrated when a piece doesn't fit, he said softly. Is that normal for her? Yes, Eliza replied, folding a towel neatly. She's impatient. She wants everything to work immediately. And, Scarlett? Henry asked. She takes longer, but she's more careful. Eliza nodded. She processes quietly before she moves. Henry took that in seriously, like he was studying something important, not for efficiency, not for control, but for connection. I want to understand them fully, he said. Their pace, their needs, their personalities. Eliza's fingers paused mid-fold. He wasn't learning to gain approval. He wasn't learning for an image. He wasn't learning for praise. He was learning because he wanted to be the father he never had the chance to be. She swallowed gently. You're doing well. Henry looked startled by the compliment. Thank you. And you're not doing it to impress me, Eliza added. I see that. Henry nodded once. I'm doing it because they deserve it. And because I want to be better than who I used to be. Eliza looked away, not because she doubted him, but because accepting this version of him tugged at parts of her heart that weren't ready to open. As the day moved into evening, the twins insisted on a living room picnic, a tradition Eliza started on nights when she was too tired to cook anything complicated. Henry helped them set up plates while Eliza prepared something simple. Amelia talked non-stop. Scarlett hummed softly while laying out napkins. Henry matched their rhythm perfectly. No forcing, no leading, just aligning with the flow of the home. Dinner was full of tiny moments that felt like a miracle when placed together. Scarlett leaning her head on Henry's shoulder for a second. Amelia correcting Henry on how to cut apple slices the right way. Henry taking each correction with a smile. Eliza catching herself watching him a little too long. Family rhythm, not repaired, not restored, but forming. Something entirely new. After dinner, when the twins ran to their room to pick pajamas, Henry helped Eliza clear the table. You don't have to do that, she said, reaching for plates. I want to help, he replied simply. That was all. Not a speech, not a plea, just presence. Eliza inhaled slowly, steadying herself. The boundaries she set were still there, but the edges were softening, not out of weakness, but out of recognition. Henry wasn't the man she left behind. He was someone growing into a role with humility, patience, and intention. And that stirred something she hadn't felt in years: hope. Cautious, quiet, but undeniably real. It had been a long day for Eliza, one of those days where motherhood stacked itself into layers. The twins had been energetic from sunrise, bouncing from activity to activity with no sign of slowing down. By late afternoon, the living room looked like a tiny storm had swept through. Blankets everywhere, crayons under the table, picture books stacked in unusual places. Eliza focused on cleaning up the dining area when she heard a loud clatter followed by Amelia's voice. "Mommy!" Scarlett dropped the markers again. This was the 5th time today. Eliza exhaled sharply and pressed her hands into the counter. Not out of anger, out of exhaustion she rarely let show, the kind that builds slowly until it finally demands to be seen. Before she could move, she heard Henry's footsteps. "I got it," he said softly. Eliza turned to see him kneeling beside Scarlett, helping her gather the spilled markers. Scarlett looked apologetic, her brows slightly pinched. Amelia hovered nearby, giving commentary that wasn't helping. "She always drops things when she's thinking too much," Amelia declared. Scarlett frowned. "I do not." "You do," Amelia insisted. Henry didn't let the tension rise. "Hey," he said gently. "Accidents happen to everyone. Even to me." Scarlett looked up. "You?" "Of course," he replied. "I drop things all the time. Yesterday I spilled coffee in my car. A whole mess." Scarlett's shoulders eased. Amelia gasped. "Was it everywhere?" "Everywhere," Henry confirmed. Scarlett giggled softly, just a tiny sound, but Eliza heard it. She felt it. She stood there watching, the fatigue in her bones shifting as Henry's presence absorbed the chaos instead of adding to it. The relief that washed over her was something she hadn't expected to feel. As Henry cleaned with the girls, Eliza stepped to the side and leaned against the wall for a moment. When she finally gathered enough energy to return to the living room, she found Henry tying Amelia's shoe. Shoe tying usually ended with Amelia frustrated and Scarlett reassuring her. But today, Henry looked patient. "No, no," Amelia said dramatically. "You're doing it wrong. You have to flip it, like this." Henry blinked. "Flip?" Scarlett nodded. "Her way is different, but it works." Eliza watched him follow Amelia's layered shoe tie instructions with sincere effort. He didn't laugh at her rules. He didn't dismiss her creativity. He allowed them to teach him, adjusting his pace until both girls were satisfied. Amelia clapped when he finished. "You're better now." Henry bowed his head dramatically. "Thank you. I have learned from the masters." Scarlett smiled again, a bit wider this time. Eliza felt her chest warm. Later, after the girls moved on to coloring, Henry joined Eliza in the kitchen. She was washing dishes, her movements slower than usual from the long day. "You okay?" he asked softly. "I'm fine," she said quickly. He didn't accept that answer. "Eliza, you've been on your feet since morning, and the girls have been energetic." "That's one word," she muttered. He stepped closer, not invading her space, but close enough to show support. "Let me dry." "You wash, I dry." She hesitated. He added, "You don't have to do everything alone, not today." Something inside her loosened. She handed him the towel. For several minutes they worked in silence, but it wasn't empty silence. It was calming, familiar, almost like a rhythm they had once known without ever naming it. "Eliza," Henry finally said, "I meant what I said the other night." She didn't look up. "About what?" "That being here changes me." She scrubbed a plate slowly. "I remember. And I told you we're not ready for that conversation." "I know," he said. "And I'm not pushing for it." He placed a dry plate on the counter. "But I want you to know that your strength, the way you've raised them, it humbles me." Her breath caught. "I'm serious," he continued. "I didn't understand what you carried. I didn't understand what it took to be both everything and everyone for them. You didn't just raise them. You built their world." Eliza swallowed, her voice suddenly softer. "I didn't have a choice, but you did it," Henry said. "And you made it look effortless even on the days it wasn't." A warmth spread in her chest, not romantic, not overwhelming, but gentle. A softening she tried to ignore for years. Henry leaned against the counter, keeping respectful distance. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Depends." He nodded. What was the hardest part of doing this alone? Eliza froze. She had never answered that question for anyone, not even herself in full detail. But something about the tone of his voice, quiet, steady, without expectation, allowed her to open a door she had kept locked. The hardest part, she echoed. Yes. She dried her hands with a cloth, thinking. It wasn't the nights, she began, even though those were hard, or the money, or the exhaustion. Henry listened carefully. It was the silence, she said quietly, the kind that comes when the kids finally sleep and there's no one to talk to, no one to lean on, no one who knows the weight you're carrying. Henry's jaw tightened, not in anger at her, but in anger at the situation, at the loneliness she endured. Eliza, he began. She lifted a hand gently. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I survived it. I became stronger because of it. But sometimes strength is just what's left when there's no choice. Henry exhaled shakily. I wish. Don't, she interrupted softly. Don't wish for the past. It's over. And I made peace with it. He nodded slowly, taking that in. But, she whispered, lowering her eyes, that doesn't mean I didn't feel alone. Henry stayed still for a moment before saying, you don't have to feel alone anymore. Her breath tightened. Henry, I'm not asking for forgiveness today, he said. I'm asking for permission to support you now. She met his gaze. Support is fine. Anything beyond that is fragile. Then I'll move carefully, he whispered. And somehow, that gentleness tightened something deep inside her heart. A sudden crash sounded from the living room. Eliza! Amelia shouted. Scarlett spilled the crayons again. Eliza sighed deeply. Before she could even turn, Henry touched her arm lightly. Not romantic, not claiming, just supportive. I'll handle it, he said. She let him go. Henry walked into the living room, crouched down, and helped Scarlett pick up every crayon. He didn't scold her. He didn't lecture her. He simply helped, quietly, patiently. Amelia hovered at his side. She does this a lot. Henry smiled. Everyone makes mistakes, even grown-ups. Scarlett's eyes flicked up at him. Are you tired of helping? Never, Henry said softly. Scarlett's shoulders softened. From the doorway, Eliza watched the scene unfold, and for the first time in years, something inside her whispered, you're not carrying this alone anymore. Later, after the girls settled down with their drawings, Henry walked back toward the kitchen. The soft light from the lamp made his expression gentle, open. He said quietly, Eliza, I know we aren't rushing anything, and I respect that, but I want you to know, getting to know you again is one of the best parts of my life right now. She felt the weight of that sentence, not heavy, not overwhelming, but warm. Henry, she said cautiously, we're still rebuilding. Slowly. I know, he replied, and I'm here for the moment didn't need more words. It was enough, the stillness between them, the quiet pulse of chemistry returning, the steady sense that something healing was unfolding piece by piece. Eliza didn't smile fully, but her expression softened, a softness she couldn't hide anymore. The next morning felt different, not louder, not brighter, not miraculous, just different. A gentleness had settled in the apartment, the kind that comes after long nights of emotional storms. The twins woke early, their small footsteps padding across the hallway floor as they searched for their crayons and stickers, their morning ritual. Eliza was in the kitchen, pouring cereal into 2 small bowls, while a quiet sense of reflection wrapped around her shoulders. Yesterday had been heavy, vulnerable, unexpectedly intimate in a way she hadn't prepared for. Henry had seen parts of her she rarely showed anyone, not because she was hiding, but because no one had ever asked before. She exhaled slowly. She felt lighter. And that terrified her. Before the twins could burst into the kitchen, a soft knock echoed at the door. Henry. He stood there with his usual gentle smile, no expectations tucked behind it, only steady warmth, the kind that hinted at consistency rather than sudden change. Morning, he said. Morning, Eliza replied. Amelia squeezed between them, nearly tripping on her own enthusiasm. Henry, we're doing something today, something big. Henry raised a brow. Something big? Scarlett nodded behind her sister, holding a notebook almost too neatly for a 5-year-old. We have a plan. Eliza slowly lifted a hand. A plan? Yes, Amelia declared. A surprise plan. Scarlett added softly. You both have to listen. Henry exchanged a glance with Eliza, the kind of glance that came from shared curiosity, shared anticipation, shared responsibility. Okay, Henry said, kneeling. We're listening. Amelia cleared her throat dramatically. We are doing a family moment. Eliza blinked. A what? A family moment, Amelia repeated, hands on her hips. Like in cartoons. Scarlett opened the notebook and revealed a drawing, a simple picture done in crayon. 4 figures, 1 tall man, 1 tall woman, 2 small girls holding their hands. Henry inhaled softly. Eliza's chest tightened, not painfully, but deeply. Scarlett pointed at the picture, her voice barely above a whisper. This is us. The weight of her words sat gently in the space between them. No pressure, no demand. Just a truth spoken from a child's heart. Eliza felt her throat thicken, but she didn't speak. Henry nodded slowly. And what do we do in this family moment? Amelia spun around. We dance. That tracks, Eliza muttered. Scarlett nodded with authority. Dancing makes people feel happy. And Mommy needs happy. Eliza froze. Scarlett didn't mean it harshly. She meant it sincerely. The way children often speak truth with no filter, no strategy, no awareness of how deeply their words land. Henry looked at Eliza, not with pity, but with something gentler, understanding. Then we dance, he said quietly. Within minutes, Amelia had turned the living room into a dance floor. She dragged out blankets and declared them dance mats. Scarlett adjusted the small speaker on the shelf and pressed play on her favorite playlist, soft music mixed with upbeat songs that felt almost too big for her tiny body. Henry stood off to the side, unsure where he fit. Eliza stood opposite him, equally unsure. Amelia clapped her hands. You two stand here. She grabbed Henry's hand and pulled him forward. Scarlett took Eliza's hand and guided her into place. Then, in a moment so simple it felt sacred, Scarlett reached up, grabbed both their hands at once and placed them together. Eliza's breath caught. Henry froze. Scarlett, with her soft, steady voice, said, It's a family moment. You have to be together. Eliza's fingers twitched in Henry's palm. Henry didn't tighten his grip. He waited for her, letting her choose whether to pull away. She didn't. She didn't hold tighter, but she didn't let go. And something shifted, soft, warm, and undeniable. Amelia pressed the music button and immediately started dancing in wild circles, arms flailing, hair flying everywhere. Scarlett followed, moving gently in small steps. Henry watched them both, then looked at Eliza. I think they want us to dance too. Eliza raised a brow. I haven't danced since you used to show me those late-night videos. Henry finished gently. Eliza blinked. She'd forgotten about that. Year-old memories. Her teaching him silly moves at midnight when the world felt lighter. She shook her head. I'm rusty. Henry shrugged. Then we'll be rusty together. For the first time, the suggestion didn't scare her. She stepped forward. Henry took 1 step to the left. She stepped on his foot. He winced dramatically. Ow, that was my good foot. Eliza snorted, an unplanned, unstoppable sound. Henry's eyes widened. Did you just? No, you did. I absolutely did not. You laughed. That was a breath through my nose. That was a laugh. Eliza tried to hold a straight face, but the absurdity of the moment, the mismatched dance steps, the twins spinning like little tornadoes, Henry's dramatic reaction, cracked something open inside her, and she laughed again, this time fully. Not forced, not polite, not strained. A real laugh, warm, bright, unexpected. Henry watched her with gentle awe, the corners of his mouth lifting slowly, like he was witnessing something rare. Scarlett tugged Amelia's arm. Mommy laughed. She whispered loudly. Amelia gasped. She did. And suddenly the twins danced harder, cheering loudly as if Eliza's laughter was a victory ceremony. Eliza covered her eyes. Okay, calm down. Henry stepped closer and lowered his voice. You should let yourself laugh more often. She met his eyes, and instead of shutting down, her expression softened again. Maybe, she whispered. I'm starting to remember how. The song changed, slower now, softer, not romantic, just gentle. Scarlett moved toward the couch and curled into a seated dance, swaying quietly. Amelia kept spinning until she grew dizzy and plopped onto the carpet with a dramatic sigh. Eliza and Henry stood in the middle of the room, not touching now, but not far apart either. The earlier hand-holding left a warmth lingering in her palm. Henry spoke first, quietly. "Eliza, I know today was just a small moment, a tiny thing, but I want you to know, it meant a lot to me." Eliza paused, considering her words. "It meant something to me, too." He didn't smile wide. He didn't lean in. He didn't push. He simply nodded, the kind of nod that showed patience, respect, and willingness to follow her pace. Scarlett stood again, walked to them slowly, and reached out her hands. One to Eliza, one to Henry. Her tiny fingers wrapped around theirs, forming a link neither adult dared break. Then she said a single sentence, simple but powerful. "We feel better when you both smile." Eliza swallowed hard. Henry breathed in deeply. Scarlett didn't understand the full weight of her words, but she carried the kind of wisdom children often do, the kind adults forget how to speak. And in that moment, Eliza realized something. Healing didn't have to arrive loudly. It didn't have to come with speeches. It didn't have to announce itself. Sometimes healing arrived in the form of a child taking your hand and reminding you you're allowed to try again. When hurt stays too long, the heart forgets its own voice. But sometimes the smallest hands guide the biggest wounds back into the light. Should love return only when trust is perfect? Or when the heart finally has room to breathe again? Henry became a habit, not a sudden one, not a dramatic one, not loud or obvious, but a gentle, steady, consistent presence that stitched itself into the rhythm of Eliza's week, and more importantly, into the twins' lives. It happened in small ways first. Every Tuesday, he met them at the community center. Every Thursday, he joined them for an hour in the park. Every Saturday morning, he helped Eliza with the twins' routines, brushing curls, tying shoes, cleaning up cereal spills before they hardened into concrete. And the strangest thing happened. Nothing felt forced. Nothing felt rushed. It felt right, like a puzzle finally finding its missing piece after years of being lopsided. One morning, Amelia burst into the living room, holding a marker like a microphone. "Scarlett, you ready for the announcement?" Scarlett looked up from her drawing. "What announcement?" Amelia grinned and ran to the door the moment the knock came. Henry stepped inside gently, as he always did, shoes off, posture relaxed, smile warm. Before he could greet them, Amelia shouted, "Henny!" Henry froze. Eliza choked on her tea. Scarlett blinked, confused. "Henny." "Yes," Amelia said proudly. "That's his new name. Because Henry is too long, so now he's Henny." She crossed her arms like the matter was officially settled. Scarlett considered this thoughtfully, then nodded. Henny is shorter. Henry didn't laugh. He didn't cry. He didn't overreact. He simply knelt down, eyes warm. "Is that what you want to call me? Henny?" Amelia nodded fiercely. "Yes." "It fits you." Scarlett, more gentle, whispered, "I like it too." Eliza placed a hand on her hip. "If you don't like the nickname, you're allowed to say." "I love it," Henry said, voice soft. And he did, because nicknames don't come from routine. They come from trust and affection, and this was the first time the twins claimed him as theirs. Eliza felt it in her chest, that tightening warmth she tried so hard to ignore. This wasn't a moment between adults. This wasn't a romantic gesture. This wasn't a promise of anything beyond today. This was fatherhood, forming in real time. Later in the week, Eliza invited Henry to join them for a simple trip, groceries for dinner. She expected awkwardness. She expected the old tension. She expected to feel exposed with him pushing a cart behind her. But that wasn't what happened. What happened was, Scarlett perched beside him in the cart, holding the list. Amelia ran ahead, pointing at fruit she liked. Eliza walked beside Henry, and somehow their steps fell into rhythm without discussion. Scarlett read the first item carefully. "Mommy says we need eggs." Henry nodded. "Let's get the ones she likes." Scarlett pointed to a carton. "Those." Henry placed them in the cart. Amelia ran over. "No, get the colorful eggs." Eliza sighed. "Amelia, those are plastic. They are fun eggs." Henry chuckled. "We can get both." Eliza shot him a look. "No, we're not buying plastic." But before she finished, Scarlett whispered, "Mommy likes the brown eggs." Eliza blinked. Henry looked at her, and that tiny detail, That Scarlett already memorized her preferences softened him even more. They continued down the aisle like a small family who had been doing this for years. The twins argued about yogurt flavors. Henry crouched patiently through every debate. Eliza watched him navigate chaos like he had trained for it. And she realized something. He wasn't trying to impress her. He was simply fitting himself into their world, piece by imperfect piece. This is how love grows when you're not forcing it, quietly, behind everyday moments. That night, after groceries were unloaded and the twins were dancing around the living room, Eliza stepped into the kitchen to catch her breath. She leaned against the counter. Her chest felt tight, not the painful tightness she felt at the gala. Panic, confusion, shock. This was different. This was awareness. Awareness that Henry was no longer the man she left 3 years ago. Awareness that his presence didn't drain her, it steadied her. Awareness that her daughters were beginning to see him as more than a visitor. Awareness that she felt something moving inside her walls. She wasn't in love again. Not yet. But she wasn't in hiding anymore either. Her feelings weren't loud or dramatic. They were slow and careful, like rain soaking into dry soil. She sighed. She couldn't deny it anymore. She cared again. Not with trust, not with certainty, not with readiness for romance, but with possibility. And possibility, for a woman who has healed alone for years, is one of the scariest feelings. Later that evening, after the twins were tucked into bed, Henry stayed a moment longer, standing near the doorway. "I don't want to overstay," he said quietly. "You're fine," Eliza replied. He nodded and glanced back toward the girls' room. "They asked me to read to them," he whispered. Eliza smiled softly. "I saw." He looked down at his hands. "They trusted me tonight. More than before." "You earned that," Eliza said. Henry looked up, surprised. "I'm trying," he said. "I don't want to move too fast. I don't want to confuse you, or them." "You haven't," Eliza whispered. He nodded slowly, absorbing her words like they meant more than she realized. "I know you need space," he continued. "I'll always give you that. But I want to be here in whatever way you're comfortable with." Eliza inhaled. She wasn't sure how to respond. She wasn't ready to discuss feelings. She wasn't ready to open every door in her heart again. But she could do one thing. She could be honest. "You're doing a good job, Henry. Better than I expected. Better than I believed possible." His throat tightened. "Thank you," he whispered. And then, without staying too long or lingering too close, he stepped back. "I'll see you tomorrow." Eliza nodded. Tomorrow, he left quietly, but his absence didn't feel like an empty hole. It felt like a door that wasn't shut anymore. Later, after she turned off the hallway light, Eliza heard Scarlett's small voice drift from their room. "Amelia, do you think Henny will stay?" Amelia yawned. "Yeah, he better. He still can't open juice right." Scarlett giggled. "But he tries. He tries a lot," Amelia replied, voice fading as sleep pulled her in. Scarlett whispered one last thing before drifting off. "I like when he's here. Mommy looks lighter." Eliza pressed a hand to her mouth. She didn't want the twins to hear her small, soft breath, part laugh, part ache, part hope, because Scarlett was right. She did feel lighter, and she knew exactly why. Love wasn't rushing back. It wasn't exploding into the room. It wasn't rewriting the past with fireworks. It was growing in the slow, gentle space between all of them. In the nicknames, in the grocery aisles, in the routine. In the quiet way Henry listened, in the careful way Eliza allowed him in, and in the innocent way Amelia and Scarlett wrapped their hearts around him without hesitation. Love grows loudly when it's young, but when it returns after pain, it grows quietly. And Henry and Eliza were just beginning to hear the whisper of something real, something new, something earned, something worth choosing. The shift didn't happen in one moment. It didn't arrive through a dramatic confession or a grand gesture that swept the room. Instead, it showed itself slowly, the way dawn creeps along the edges of a window before anyone notices it's morning. Eliza felt it the next afternoon, when Henry stopped by earlier than expected. Not because she asked him to, not because of the twins' plans, but because he wanted to help without being prompted. He stood outside holding 2 small bags from a local store, the kind of place Eliza loved but rarely visited because it was out of the way. "I brought the girls' favorite snacks," he said, lifting the bags gently. "And tea for you. The one with the cinnamon blend you like." Eliza stilled. She hadn't told him her favorite flavor in years. Yet here he was, holding a memory she didn't realize he had kept. She stepped aside to let him in. Her voice softened. "Thank you." The twins ran out of the hallway like a miniature parade. Amelia clapped her hands wildly while Scarlett hugged Henry's leg like she'd been waiting for him all morning. Henry crouched down to their level, patient and warm. "We're making a tower," Amelia announced. "Want to help?" "Of course," Henry said. Scarlett added shyly, "But it's wobbly sometimes." "We fix it together," he said gently. Eliza watched the three of them, the man she once loved, kneeling on the floor of her living room, steadying wooden blocks with two giggling girls pressed against his sides. It was the most fragile, precious thing she'd seen in years. And she felt something inside her shift again, even if she didn't want to admit it out loud. Later, after the tower fell for the 5th time, and Amelia decided gravity was rude, the twins wandered off to the bedroom with their markers and coloring books. Henry stayed in the living room, picking up fallen blocks and placing them neatly in the corner basket. Eliza stood near the couch, fingers tracing the rim of her teacup. "We need to talk," she said quietly. Henry froze, not in fear, not in panic, just in understanding. He nodded once. "I know." He sat on the couch, but not too close, leaving her space as she moved to sit at the other end. The house felt still, not heavy, not tense, just quiet enough for truth. She drew in a breath. "We've been moving through the last few weeks carefully, and that's good. But there's something we haven't addressed." Henry folded his hands. "Our past." Eliza nodded. "Yes." He didn't look away. "Say what you need to say. I'm here." She swallowed. "You hurt me, Henry." "I know." "No." She pressed softly, keeping her tone level. "I need you to hear it clearly. The way everything happened, it changed the direction of my life. It changed everything for me, for the girls." Henry's eyes glistened, but he didn't interrupt. "I didn't get to lean on you. I didn't get to prepare with you. I didn't get to share their first laugh, or their first night home, or any of the moments I prayed we'd witness together." Her voice cracked at the edges, but she breathed through it, refusing to crumble. Henry's chest tightened. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I am so sorry I wasn't there. Even if I didn't know, even if things were hidden from me, I still should have been someone you could reach, someone you trusted." Eliza nodded. "I believe you now. I really do. But believing you doesn't erase the ache." Silence stretched between them, honest, raw, unforced. Then Henry spoke again, voice low but steady. "I carry the weight of those lost years, too. Every night, I think of the time I missed, and I know I can't fix the past. I can only show up for what comes next." His words weren't grand. They weren't polished. They weren't crafted to impress. They were real. She felt it. Her shoulders eased, not fully, but enough for breath to feel like breath again. The twins' laughter echoed faintly down the hallway. It grounded them both. "Eliza," Henry said carefully, "I still care about you. I never stopped. But I also know you're not asking for romance right now." "I'm not," she said, shaking her head lightly. "I'm asking for honesty, for consistency, for something real and steady." He nodded once. "Then that's what I'll give. No pushing, no rushing, no expectations." Her eyes softened. "Thank you," he exhaled, a slow release of years of regret. "I want to earn a place in your life again," he said, "not because of the past, but because of who we are now." Something in her shifted, not like a sudden spark, but like a curtain easing open just enough to let in a sliver of light. She looked down at her hands. "It scares me, Henry." "I know," he said gently. "Healing always does." She met his gaze, steadying herself. "I don't want to repeat old patterns. I don't want to feel lost, and I don't want the girls to get confused. Then we move slow," he said. "Step by step, not for me, for all of us." Her breath trembled, not from fear this time, but from recognition. This wasn't the reckless man she had once left. This was someone rebuilt by truth, shaped by maturity, softened by fatherhood. Suddenly, Amelia popped her head around the corner. "Are you done talking grown-up talk?" Eliza blinked. "Yes, sweetheart." "Why?" Amelia trotted over, holding a crayon in one hand and a half-colored page in the other. She plopped onto Henry's lap like she'd been doing it forever. "Good," she said confidently. "Because I have a question." Henry smiled. "What's your question?" She placed a tiny palm on his cheek. "Are you going to stay forever?" Henry froze, not in fear, but in emotion so deep it hit his ribs. Eliza's breath caught. Scarlett peeked from around the corner, waiting for the answer. Henry swallowed. He didn't look at Eliza first. He looked at Amelia, then Scarlett, then back to Amelia's brave little face. "If you'll let me," he whispered. "I want to stay for the rest of your lives." Amelia's eyes widened with delight. "So, forever?" He nodded. "Forever." Scarlett walked over and wrapped her arms around his waist. Eliza pressed a hand to her chest, her heartbeat uneven. Henry wasn't promising Eliza love. He wasn't promising a relationship. He wasn't pushing past her boundaries. He was promising the twins' stability, the most sacred promise a father can make. And that, more than any apology, more than any grand gesture, was the moment Eliza began to trust him again. Not fully, not fearlessly, but truly. Later, after the twins returned to their coloring, Henry stood to leave. "I'll be back tomorrow," he said quietly. Eliza nodded. "I know." She walked him to the door, her arms crossed, not defensively, but thoughtfully. He paused before stepping out. "Eliza," he said softly, "thank you for talking with me today, for trusting me with the truth, for letting me earn my place slowly." She nodded once. "Thank you for being here." Their eyes held, not with old fire, not with leftover pain, but with something new, calm, grounded, hopeful. The heart doesn't relearn truth instantly. But tonight, hers began to understand something. Love isn't returning to where it left off. It's moving forward, one steady step at a time. The next morning arrived quietly, the kind of morning where sunlight didn't rush through the curtains but eased its way in, like it understood the house needed a soft start. Eliza was in the kitchen finishing breakfast when she heard footsteps, small ones, not coordinated, the kind that always meant the twins were awake and already plotting something. Amelia burst into the kitchen first, wearing mismatched socks and carrying a stack of papers folded like secret messages. Scarlett followed, dragging a blanket behind her and rubbing one eye. "Mommy," Amelia said dramatically, "we have work to do." Eliza raised a brow. "Work?" "Big work," Scarlett added quietly, sliding onto a chair. Eliza smiled and poured their juice. "And what kind of work is that?" Amelia leaned in whispering, even though no one else was there. "A surprise." "For Henny." Scarlett nodded in agreement. "A good surprise." Eliza paused. The twins had made many drawings over the last few weeks, colorful shapes, families holding hands, tall buildings, tiny stick figures with curly hair. But the idea that they wanted to plan something for Henry, that was new. "What kind of surprise?" Eliza asked, keeping her voice gentle. Scarlett spoke first. "A picture. Of us. And him too," Amelia added. "Because you said surprises make people feel happy, and we want him to feel happy." Eliza swallowed as her chest softened. "That sounds like a beautiful idea." The twins grinned and immediately started preparing the dining table for what Amelia called creative business, which involved crayons, markers, and paper spread everywhere like confetti, waiting for purpose. Eliza knew they were growing attached, truly attached, and instead of fear, something else rose within her, peace. Henry arrived just before noon. He didn't knock loudly. He always knocked with patience, like he understood the home wasn't his yet, but hoped one day it might feel familiar to all of them. Amelia ran to the door before Eliza could even wipe her hands on a towel. "Henny, we have a meeting." Henry blinked. "A meeting?" Scarlett tugged at his hand. "A very important one." They guided him to the dining table, where their masterpiece sat waiting for presentation. Amelia lifted the paper with both hands like a trophy. "This is us," she announced. Henry leaned in. On the page were 4 figures, Amelia with a huge smile, Scarlett with long hair, Eliza standing tall, and Henry, drawn slightly in the center, holding both twins' hands. He swallowed. "Hard. You put me in the picture," he said softly. Scarlett nodded. "Because you're here now." "And you said forever," Amelia added matter-of-factly, like contracts in crayon were legally binding. Henry didn't hide his tears this time. They weren't dramatic. They weren't heavy. They were quiet, the kind that slipped free when someone's heart finally believes what it feared was impossible. He looked at Eliza. Her expression was intense. She wasn't shielding herself. She wasn't stepping back. She watched him with steady eyes, softened by time and trust. "That's beautiful," he whispered. "It's true," Amelia insisted. Scarlett climbed onto his lap, confident and gentle. "It's us." Henry pressed his forehead to hers. It's us, he repeated. Eliza had to look away for a second, overwhelmed by how natural it felt, this simple moment of four people discovering they were no longer separate stories, but one unfolding together. Later, after the twins ran off to play, Eliza and Henry moved into the living room. The drawing remained on the table behind them, a small, powerful declaration of what the twins already felt. Henry lowered himself onto the couch, still holding the picture loosely in his hands. Eliza sat across from him, giving herself a moment before speaking. "You handled that well," she said. Henry chuckled softly. "I didn't do anything." "You didn't run from the emotion," she corrected. "You didn't deflect. You let them show you how they feel." "They're honest," Henry replied. "Braver than most adults." Eliza nodded. Silence settled again. Not awkward, not strained, just full. Full of everything they had lived through, everything they feared, everything they hoped. Henry looked at her carefully. "Can I ask you something?" "Yes." "Do you trust me now?" Eliza didn't look away. "I do," she said softly. "Not blindly, not without thought. But I trust who you've become." The words settled between them like a quiet blessing. Henry didn't smile wide, didn't rush with gratitude, didn't push further. He simply breathed. A slow, steady breath of relief. Then Eliza added something he wasn't expecting. "And I'm learning to trust myself again, too." Henry's eyes softened. "You're doing an incredible job." Eliza looked down. "I spent so long surviving, so long protecting the girls. I didn't think I had room for anything else." She exhaled slowly, steadying herself. "But you're making space feel safe again." Henry swallowed. "Eliza, I care about you, deeply, but I don't want to move faster than you're ready for." Her eyes lifted to meet his. "We're not jumping back into anything," she said gently, "but I'm not shutting the door either." Henry nodded once, a quiet acceptance that felt like the beginning of something real, not a repeat, not a return, a new start. Before the moment grew too heavy, the twins returned holding a small speaker. "We're having music time," Amelia declared. Scarlett added, "Family dancing." Eliza blinked. "Dancing?" "Yes," Amelia insisted. "It's the rule." "Since when?" Henry asked. "Since right now," Amelia said confidently, pressing play. Soft music filled the room, upbeat but gentle, the kind of melody that made laughter easier. The twins grabbed Henry's hands and pulled him up. "You have to dance too," Scarlett said. Henry raised an eyebrow. "Do the first?" "Yes," both twins said in unison. Eliza laughed under her breath. Amelia looked at her next. "Mommy, you too." "Oh no," Eliza said quickly. "I'm not a good dancer." Henry smirked. "Neither am I." "That's why we'll look equally ridiculous." Eliza rolled her eyes, but the playful moment disarmed her completely. She stood, letting the twins tug her forward, and for the first time in years, Eliza laughed fully. Not the guarded version, not the polite smile, not the tired humor, real laughter. Henry smiled quietly at the sound, allowing himself to enjoy it but not claim it. The four of them danced in their living room like a family who didn't need choreography or perfection. Just presence, just joy, just each other. The twins spun in circles, giggling until they fell onto the couch. Eliza stumbled and caught herself on Henry's arm. Henry steadied her immediately, gently, respectfully. Their eyes held for a moment, not with pressure, not with expectation, but with ease. Eliza felt something settle in her chest, something peaceful, something warm, something she hadn't felt in years, hope. As the music lowered and the twins sprawled on the couch catching their breath, Scarlett reached up sleepily. She took Eliza's hand first, then Henry's. Then she placed both of their hands together in hers. A tiny gesture, a small bridge, but powerful. Amelia, watching this, nodded proudly. "See? That's better." Eliza looked at Henry, hand in hand because of their daughter's quiet confidence, not because of unresolved history. Henry didn't squeeze or hold too long. He simply let the moment breathe. Eliza whispered, "Maybe. Healing really is possible." Henry's gaze softened. "I think it is. Love doesn't return the same way it left. It doesn't knock loudly at the door. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't ask for fireworks or grand speeches. Sometimes it returns quietly, through trust, through consistency, through two little girls who saw a family before the adults saw it themselves. Eliza didn't choose Henry because of the past. Henry didn't choose Eliza because of what once was. They chose this moment, this new version of each other, this rebuilding, this gentle beginning, a beginning shaped not by romance first, but by family. Would you give Henry a second chance? Comment below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that heal and inspire.